On today's Newsmakers, actor Dean Cain is joining ICE, and he explains why he cares about immigration, why the border is important, and what he has to say to those critics who call him a, quote, fake Christian. That and more on this episode of Newsmakers. With no further ado, here is Dean Cain. As the immigration debate continues, actor Dean Cain has made a fascinating announcement. He's becoming an ICE agent. Dean, I love this story. Let's dive in. What drove this decision?
Well, for me, it's real simple. It's the same reason I joined law enforcement years ago, almost a decade ago, is because at that point in time, people were talking about defunding the police, which is insane to me. And, you know, there are people who will scream about the police, oh, they're terrible, but the second their life is in danger, guess what they do? They call 911 and a hero shows up. Don't care about your religion, don't care what race you are, don't care about anything other than solving the issue, creating peace and security in our country. And the same thing is happening here. ICE agents are forced to have to mask up, hide their identities because people are doxing them. Attacks on ICE agents are up over 1,000% in the last year. It's crazy they're being vilified, and it takes good people stepping up and saying this is wrong, and joining up if need be. And in my case, it just turned out that joining up turned out to be the right thing. I put out a recruitment video for ICE. They're touting their benefits and the things they can do, and almost 100,000 patriotic Americans have applied for 10,000 positions, and it's wonderful to see. So I'll take all the hate that people want to dish to me online about standing up for Americans and protecting our families, our cities, our country, because I think it's the right thing to do. So I'm going to stand shoulder to shoulder with these ICE officers and agents and say, hey, I'm with you. And hopefully there'll be a lot of other people that step up and this ridiculous hate campaign gets dissolved.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much you just said that I want to dive into, but how far will you take this? Like, would you go out on raids? What if they ask you to do something? Is there a line for you where you're like, well, I don't want to do that? Or are you all in on this?
I'll do whatever Director Lyons decides is right for me. But as it stands, looks like I'm going to be an honorary ICE officer. I'll probably do most of my work like I'm doing right now, defending our men and women of ICE. I'd love to go down to the border and get sworn in there. And I'd love to see our men and women in action and say thank you and document how wonderful they are. But if I'm a fully sworn deputy sheriff. I mean, I understand law enforcement. If they want me to get out there, if they think that's an important thing to do, I'll get out there. I'll do whatever it takes to help defend this country and that means Democrats and Republicans and everybody. The individuals, when you look at the individual cases of a Laken Riley or a Jocelyn Nungary, that's horrific. And anybody who stands for what's right would say this is a problem and we need to fix it.
I mean, you can't have a system. This should not even be a partisan issue. And I guess I'll editorialize here, but you can't have a system where you have people running around, millions of people, where you don't know who they are. You don't know anything about them. There's no documentation. It's not a sufficient system to operate a country. And as you just stated, there have been numerous examples of crimes that have been perpetuated against American citizens. It is common sense to protect the border, and people can debate what that looks like. But the fact that you are standing up and doing this, you mentioned the online hate. I know you're getting a lot of support. You are getting some pushback, though. People calling you a fake Christian, things like that, right?
100%. They're calling me a fake Christian. They're posting pictures of me when I was a little heavier. They're doing anything to make me look bad, telling me I dye my hair. I mean, it's ridiculous, the ad hominem attacks. But they'll look at any way to tear you down, to scare people from wanting to do it. That's what they do. They're trying to frighten people. And I'm not going to walk around in fear. None of us should. Fear is a disease. Don't let it control your life. Do what you think is right. I'm not saying hurt other people or do anything of that nature, but do what you think is right. Stand up. Be that good Samaritan. Be that person who is trying to make things safer and better for people, throughout this country and throughout the world, truthfully. But the fake Christian attacks, that's an immediate block. I just block them on social media when they do that. If they want to get into that, I'll turn them to you and let you eviscerate them.
Yeah, it's at the end of the day, you go back to defund the police. You were bringing this up before. The impact that that actually had, we can't I mean, we have to really dig into that because when you are saying we want to defund the police and you're coming up with all these other ideas, look, I'm all for it. I think all of us are reforming things that are bad, right? If there's
Sure.
something in the system that needs to be fixed or somebody does something wrong, you deal with it. But this idea that we should be defunding them, if you think there's some malignancy within the police, which I don't personally think there is, then you might want to give them more funding to figure out how to fix that. Talk a little bit about that because as somebody who, is in law enforcement and has been, that was a really disturbing movement for many around the country.
It was horrible, and that's why I joined up. And then when you know these men and women who serve in law enforcement, you know that they're mothers and fathers and brothers and sisters and cousins and people you love and have around you. They forget that these are human beings and they have a life and they have family and they're trying to do the right thing. And this is the profession that they chose to serve and protect others. That is extremely noble and something that should be celebrated. When I was a kid, it was celebrated. It was, don't talk to strangers unless it's a police officer because they're there to help. And now they're teaching them the exact opposite. And I don't understand that. It doesn't make sense to me. And if you spend any time with some of these ICE agents and officers and folks on the ground, they're of every ethnicity, every religion, every color, every creed, and they're doing the best they can to protect Americans, American citizens, and anybody who's here in this country. They are there standing for law and order. And I don't see how that's a negative thing from any side of the aisle, Democrats, Republicans, anybody. They're there to protect you and they're doing their job that Congress wrote the laws to have them do. So if Congress wants to change the immigration system, which I think is broken and needs to be fixed tremendously because it's ridiculous that my friend Matthew Marsden can't get his son here from the UK. He's been here, he's got 9 kids, he's a fully sworn American citizen. He can't get his kid in. That doesn't make sense. But when you're letting in cartel members, when you're letting in people who are completely unvetted, who don't want to assimilate to this country, we're doing a real disservice to our country. And the same thing with police officers. The recruitment was down hugely for police officers. Morale was down during the defund the police movement. And that's the exact same thing that I'm trying to turn around here by joining up with ICE and saying, hey, these guys are great patriotic Americans. They should be respected and revered instead of vilified like they are. One of the things that happened to me that was shocking was, and I still laugh at, I'm giggling at it because it's so absurd, is that Jared Moskowitz, I don't know how you say his name. I couldn't pick him out of a lineup, but he's a congressman. He wrote, and he actually tweeted this, a sitting U.S. congressman tweeted that $50,000 bonus, what they're giving to newly signed ICE agents, $50,000 bonus is the biggest contractual bonus Dean Cain will ever get. Cutting me down for supporting our law enforcement officers and ICE, and cutting me down personally with ad hominem attacks to scare people away from joining. And I find that reprehensible and completely un-American.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, there's no conflict between saying we need to do all the things you just discussed, right? We need to support ICE, and we need to fix the system. The system's broken, as you were saying before. We have had, and I will say this, examples that I've vetted, I've looked at, where you have people. It's complicated, right? They're technically not here legally, but they didn't break through the border. They were illegally here at one point. The government's going to have to figure out, once you sort of overcorrect, you have to figure out, well, do we really want to be arresting the guy who came here at age 15 with his parents and now he's a pastor serving his community? Like, do we really want to do that, or do we need to pull back and have more staff, right, to look at these cases, right?
We want to, but you're right. The overcorrection is absolutely true. We had such a bad problem. Let's take it like a baseball swing or a golf swing. When you're learning the right way to do it, or to improve your swing, to improve our system, you do overcorrect. And then you find the right spot. So there will be people, unfortunately, that are caught up in this, but they are in the country illegally, and they need to be they need to deal with that with the U.S. government. And there should be fixes. And I believe President Trump makes the way he negotiates is he'll make an outlandish statement or something strong, and everybody goes, "Oh my gosh, that's the worst." But then he always sort of course corrects and finds that middle ground. And I think he's genius in what he's been doing with tariffs, with trade, with creating peace throughout the world, not starting new wars, ending them preemptively and things of that nature. I think he's going to find the right balance here. And I think there are people who in this administration who I know very well and trust will do the right thing. And those cases where it's somebody who truly wants to be an American, who truly has assimilated to this culture and loves this country, that they don't get booted out. I'm sure they're going to find a middle ground. But if you're here illegally, you need to make it right. And also, if you're here illegally and you're just terrified of ICE coming to get you, they'll send you home. They'll give you $1,000. They'll send you home a free flight, $1,000 and a free flight to go back to whatever country you're a citizen of. And then you have the opportunity to come back here, reapply, and live the American dream. And that's a wonderful option. And millions of people have already taken up the government on that offer. And I hope millions more do.
All right, so I want to ask you this because there's a lot happening right now, as you just stated. What has you most encouraged right now? When you look at the political landscape, it was a dark few years in a lot of people's minds, sort of watching, especially for conservatives watching. What has you encouraged at the moment?
Well, President Trump is delivering on the promises that he ran upon. And as much as there's big pushback, I see tremendous course corrections in everything. Let's start with my business, Hollywood. There has been a tremendous course correction. We're in the process of it where, woke ideology is not permeating everything that we do. There's a faith and family arm of every single studio now because people want to see that kind of uplifting material. That's a wonderful thing. The border is closed. The president is signing peace treaties left and right down in Africa, where thousands upon thousands of people were being killed every day. I think you'll get a peace between Russia and Ukraine. You talk about the Pakistan, India, that they were into a big, possibly nuclear armed conflict. That's over. There's peace agreements everywhere. So I see things getting on the right track. I fully support this administration. They're slowly weeding out all the bad actors within the closet. And listen, I got a closet next door that I need to go through. And things are hidden deep in there. And I'm like, wow, I didn't know this was in here. There's a lot of that going in the government, but it's going to take a little bit of time to root it out. Great patriots like Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, who gave up $5 million a year to serve. These people are doing great work. And I do honestly believe that we are entering into a golden age of American prosperity and a golden age of peace in this world. And I think a huge part of that is because of President Trump and his leadership. I would argue that God had a hand in turning his head in Butler, Pennsylvania. That was a tipping point for so many and so much in this world. The lawfare that was being perpetrated against President Trump. I'm happy to see those people being brought to justice and some light shined upon that subject. I could go on, but I'm in a very optimistic mood, my friend. And I just think the future is very bright for both the United States and the world as a result.
Yeah, I mean, you talked everything from politics to Hollywood there, and you have done so much in Hollywood. You've created a lot of projects, actually, that have been very uplifting in that faith and family space, and you've done it for a long time now, at a time especially when it wasn't popular, and it was popular among the audience, but it wasn't popular within Hollywood. Now suddenly Hollywood is jumping on board. It's got to be encouraging for you to sort of see that happen. You were an early adopter in that, in creating that content. Any final words on that front? Because I do think it's been fun to watch that unfold.
Well, you got to step up early. I understand the fear that people run around with to speak up. I can't tell you the number of positive comments I've received from people from all ilks. My friends across the aisle have reached out to me and said, explain to me what you're doing. I want to be able to know what's happening. So I think that's changing. But, being the first person to step up or among the first people doesn't make you popular. That's not a popular stance to take in Hollywood, but it's the right one. And I think history will show that I've always stood for and continue to stand for truth, justice, and the American way. And I believe in all of those things.
Well, Dean Cain, that is a great place for us to close today. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Billy. Always a pleasure, sir. And nice talking to you.
That's all for today's Newsmakers. Make sure you head on over to the CBN News YouTube channel and cbnnews.com for more of the news you need to read. We'll see you again tomorrow.